In Lily.
I have.
We could probably start without the city manager meeting, start without Lily.
Yeah, no, not me.
I do not want to have that conversation.
And she doesn't like to give me support.
Sure, yeah.
Well, some people.
For tonight, so the finals week was Tuesday.
Oh, that's right, semester is this Thursday.
Yeah, so.
Is it because they get money back? Because like I wouldn't be so.
Should we wait for him?
I don't know. Hey,
Now we're gonna wait until city manager gets here to start.
You need to do it from over there. No, I'm gonna be over here.
We're going to call the regular meeting of the Hermiston City Council to order. Declaration of a quorum. All members present with the exception of the mayor. Therefore, I am acting in his stead. Just as a reminder, when we take votes, I get a vote. As such, let's go with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. It appears that our new municipal court judge, Cameron Bendixson, is present. Would you like to come forward and talk to us, sir? Right under the wire.
I still have kids at home and it's busy at my house, so I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but
Well, welcome.
thank you. It's good to be with you. It's been a really good experience so far. Grew up in Hermiston and practiced law about 10 years here in town with my dad and my uncle. My uncle was a circuit court judge for many years, and the timing seemed right to throw my hat in the ring to be the municipal judge. And it's worked out well, and I can't say enough about the staff we have here, Jillian Viles and Alex and Jennifer Herrera here. I just feel like the court's really in a good place, and we're getting more efficient. And I'm learning what our goals are, I think, as a court. But I have understood in my experience as an attorney in litigation and just in managing an office that I think most people just want to be heard. And that's my goal as municipal judge, is just to make sure that people have a chance to be heard and understood. And there are many that come through the court that maybe have never been there before, maybe don't understand the legal process all that well. And it's a really good opportunity for myself and my staff to just take time to help people understand how things work a little bit, to listen a little bit better, and to just help people feel a little more comfortable in a district. Don't screw things up too bad. So, but I hope to be here for a good long time in this position, and it's really a privilege to serve. So, thank you.
Thank you. We really look forward to working with you and seeing all the exciting things that you have in store for us. I would imagine that at some point in time you'll be gracing us with your presence with updates and so forth.
Yeah, I plan on being to city council meetings as I can, and I think if I'm not here, I'm sure Ms. Biles can fill you in, and we're available to meet, and always looking for ways to improve. So, thank you.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for your service and willingness to step forward.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have presentations from Barnett and Morrow, our city auditor, the lowdown.
So I saw your 440-page agenda packet online and thought maybe I'd keep it short.
Great.
So, as brief as I can, we concluded that the financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects. Or the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city. We didn't identify any deficiencies in internal control that we considered to be a material weakness. Our testing didn't disclose any instances of non-compliance or other matters that we are required to report under government auditing standards. Things that we discussed with the finance director, Mr. Krosik.
One moment, sir. Can we get his mic turned up a little bit? We can barely hear him over here.
We did make some specific recommendations for improved monitoring that we discussed with the finance director. As far as that goes, that's really all I have to present today.
Okay. Wow, I was not expecting it to be that short.
That is
When
not
you said
normal,
brief, you
though.
meant it.
But
So,
we'll
nothing of note on either the Urban Renewal Agency or the city.
No.
All right.
Mr. President, if I could.
Please do,
I meant
sir.
to tell you all, you have in the big binder the financial statements for the city operation. You also have a second set of financials for the Urban Renewal Agency. And you're welcome to ask any questions you'd like in regards to that. I know you only get it tonight to look at, but I wanted to be sure you knew what you were looking at, so that if you did have questions.
Yes.
Were there any issues last year? It seems to me that there were a couple of things that you made mention of last year.
I'm gonna have to look to my associate because I was not present at
Okay,
the
well,
council
if
meeting
so,
last year.
were they resolved?
Okay, we're comfortable that we have no significant concerns at this point. Again, we made recommendations for improved monitoring, but other than that, nothing that I would consider really material.
Thank you.
So in other words, money's in good hands and we're doing the right thing. All right. Well, does anybody else have any questions? All right, Mr. Sutton. Well, thank you very much for your brief report.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come by.
All right, so we're at the first opportunity today for citizen input. This is for citizen input on any non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to bring anything before the council that is not on the agenda, please do the following. 1, limit your comments to not more than 5 minutes. 2, state your name and address. And 3, direct your comments to me. Is there anybody that has anything to wish to bring forward? Seeing none. All right, next on the lineup is the consent agenda. Is there any items that need to be removed from the agenda? Seeing none, are there any council comments on anything on the agenda? Seeing none, are there any public comments in regards to anything on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through E?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ron, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Okay, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Sorry, making notes. Nothing was removed from the consent agenda items, so we'll move on to public hearings. Comprehensive plan map amendment, Simon and Simon for slots 900 and 906 through 1457, 1555, 1575, 1595 East Airport Road in regards to ordinance 22343. So, are there any declarations of a conflict of interest from the council? Seeing none. Hearing guidelines will now be presented by city staff.
Okay, and bear with me, they are lengthy. So, the City Council is holding a hearing to consider a request to amend the city's comprehensive plan map from commercial and industrial to commercial and industrial, with a corresponding change in zoning designation from outlying commercial, light industrial to outlying commercial for approximately 1.03 acres of land, and amending the comprehensive plan map from commercial industrial to industrial with a corresponding change in zoning designation from outlying commercial, light industrial to light industrial for approximately 7.19 acres of property located at 1457, 1555, 1575, and 1595 East Airport Road. City Council will consider the request to make a decision based on the criteria established in Section 157.226 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances. The applicant is Simon & Simon Land Co. LLC. For this hearing, the applicable substantive criteria relied upon by the city in rendering the decision to amend the comprehensive plan map and zoning map are contained in 157.226 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria described above or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulations which the person believes apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue by the close of the record at or following the hearing, in person or by letter, precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals or based on that issue. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond arguments or testimony pursuant to ORS 197-7976C. For this hearing, the process begins with a staff report, followed by testimony from the applicants and any other supporters of the application. This will be followed by opponents to the application. Finally, a rebuttal by the applicant will be allowed. The public hearing portion of the procedure will then be closed, and the City Council will consider the information and testimony received, adopt findings of fact, and render a decision on the comprehensive plan map and zoning map amendments.
Consider the hearing now open. City staff will now present its report.
Okay, thank you. The City Council is holding a hearing tonight to consider adjusting the commercial industrial zoning line for 8.2 acres of land that's located at 1457 East Airport Road. The zoning line currently splits the property on a roughly northwesterly diagonal. You'll see that on the monitors here as well as in your staff report. And the proposed amendment will move this zoning line on the comprehensive plan and zoning maps to follow lot lines. The property is currently zoned C2 on the western portion and M1 or light industrial on the east portion. And like I said, it just follows a northwesterly diagonal. The proposal then adjusts this lot line to adjust the diagonal to follow lot lines, creating a 44,000 square foot commercial lot at the southwest corner. That would be the blue one on the display. And a 312,000 square foot light industrial lot on the west portion and the balance of the property. So that's On the existing map, we see the line runs up and to the left, and now we're creating two rectangles, what the yellow one being industrial and the blue one being commercial. Full copy of all of this proposed amendment is attached to your staff report as Exhibit B on page 15 of your packet. No change in the permitted use is proposed as a result of this proposal. Only the acreages that are devoted to commercial industrial uses. Two existing manufactured dwellings have been replaced. There is a third dwelling, which the city has historically refused to grant any permits to replace because it sits in one of the industrial areas, and existing residences are not permitted in industrial areas. Changing the southwest corner to commercial helps grant additional rebuild rights to help them clean up the property with the dwelling on it. This is a mixed-use neighborhood. It's primarily industrial and commercial to the west. There's a vet office, a welding shop, hotel, trucking office, and other commercial and industrial uses. To the east is rural residential land. It's within our UGB, and all of the rural residential area is designated for future industrial use. And then when you go to the north of this area, you have Geotech and the Hermiston Airport. ODOT did submit some comments on this proposal. They submitted that they did not see this amendment as something that would require any additional traffic analysis and that it would not trigger any transportation planning rule compliance as no new uses are proposed. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on January 11th on this question. After the close of their hearing, they made a recommendation that the council adopt the proposed amendment. From a staff perspective, we view this application basically as a housekeeping amendment. The older diagonal line is very hard to figure out where it runs. It has no logical relation to any geographical feature or lot lines. So moving it so that it does follow lot lines creates a lot more existing future development pattern for the area. Therefore, staff recommends that the council accept the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt Ordinance 2343. The applicant has retained Carla McLean, who used to be a Morrow County planner, to assist with their application, and she has prepared a very extensive, well-prepared set of findings that are in your staff report as well to support this application.
Thank you. That was very good. So now it's time for public testimony. People wishing to speak are asked to state their name, mailing address, and limit testimony to 5.
The applicants do own 3 lots. They kind of build on top of each other. They're only proposing to make changes on the 2 smaller lots. They're leaving the larger lot alone at this point in time. They do have plans to kind of retain the residential uses that have been on this smaller lot. There's a couple of manufactured homes out there, and again, as Mr. Spencer shared, they're working to replace one of them because it's on the what is currently the industrial side. They're caught in limbo, not being able to do this until this is completed. So once this is completed, they have purchased a new manufactured home. That swap out will happen as the next kind of land use action that will very likely moving their operation onto that property. The industrial zoning supports that. It's large enough that they have some tentative plans to divide it into several lots that will allow for additional industrial development in that area. So this really is, as Mr. Spencer said, a kind of a housekeeping or a cleanup measure. It really does make sense. The diagonal line is kind of, it kind of creates mental confusion when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and where you're going to do it. The uses are not dissimilar, but they are not identical between the commercial and the industrial use. So this will create additional clarity, not only for the current owner and what they want to do, but going forward into the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The Simons aren't here tonight if you want to hear directly from the landowner. Otherwise, just like the Barnett and Morrow folks, we'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any other proponents that wish to speak? Seeing none, are there any neutral parties that wish to speak at this time? Again, seeing none. And finally, any opponents who wish to speak? Anybody against this? Seeing none, well, that will close the hearing. City staff will now present its finding of facts.
Findings of fact are Exhibit D in your staff report on pages 16 through 30. Be happy to answer any questions. They are the same findings that were adopted by the Planning Commission on the 11th.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to make the project file a part of the record?
So,
Second.
And moved by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Linton. Roll call.
yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. And second, a motion to approve the finding of facts as presented.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously as well. All right. 575 and 1595 East Airport Road. City Manager Smith.
Yes, so it is the item you just discussed. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any council comments that you didn't have a minute ago?
Can you repeat all of that again, just so I can hear it?
No. Is there any public comment? Seeing none. Council President requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Tubby.
First reading by title only, ordinance number 2343, and
Okay. Done. Council President requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting and that the second reading be by title only.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Tubby.
second reading by title only, ordinance number 2343, an ordinance amending the City of Hermiston Comprehensive Plan, Map, and Zoning Map.
Thank you, sir. Motion that ordinance 2343 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption by City Council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved by Councilor Layton, second by Councilor Durant. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, folks.
Thank you very much.
55 pages.
Well, we're moving along. All right, next is ordinance 2344, amending driveway width standards to match public works standards. City Manager Smith.
Yes, I believe we're asking Mr. Spencer to handle this item.
Yeah. Back in 2018, we amended our municipal code for driveway and access to set a maximum width of 36 feet, and that's part of our code of ordinances. Tonight, we're adopting a new public works standards, and as we've been going through the public works standards, we've been trying to determine if there's a compelling public interest in having your driveway width specified in ordinance rather than work standards, and we feel that it's better to actually set the public works standard to establish our driveway standards rather than our code, because that's something that gets reviewed by the City Council every January during review, so it's more kept up to date. And in this case, they're coming in, and Joshua from Anderson Perry is here to answer any questions as well. The new public works standards are coming in. We've been looking at our existing 36 feet and have pretty much determined, based on the number of requests that we receive, a lot of uncertainty for developers. A lot of times the driveway is the last thing that goes in after the house is already built. So we're proposing to set in the public works standards a maximum of 50 feet or 50% of your lot frontage, whichever is smaller. Because we're dealing with so many 3-car garages and RV pads, the 50 feet will hopefully under just about every circumstance accommodate as a maximum. When you have a narrower lot, a 60-foot lot or a 70-foot lot, 35 feet at 50% still preserves your on-street parking and then allows a pretty wide driveway as well. For reference, I went out and measured, if you're wondering just how wide 50 feet is, at the four-way intersection at First and Highland by the high school, that's 47 feet curb to curb. So 50 feet would be awfully wide.
Sounds like a reasonable request. I can see how where we're going with this. So, are there any council comments on this? Councilor Carter.
Is there a scenario in which the minimum, the maximum of 50% of your frontage would be less than the 36 feet that we had before that people would potentially be losing out on? And are we anticipating any complaints based on that?
There is a potential. If you have a 60-foot lot width, you could conceivably have 30 feet. In my experience, the 60-foot wide lots are not putting in the 3-car garages. They're generally putting in the 2-car garages. So I think that would not be a huge issue. Additionally, within the Code of Ordinances itself, we still have the ability to request a waiver. So should somebody go, I absolutely have to have this 35-foot driveway because my jet ski has to go on this exact spot and there's no other place, they can approach me and the city engineer, and then we can work through that. We have specific criteria for establishing the variance.
Because that exists right now as it stands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
all we're doing is basically giving you the ability to start out wider and narrow it down as necessary.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there any public comment? All right, Council President requests first reading of the ordinance be read by title only and calls for a roll call. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Or, yes, action passes. Mr. Tubby.
First reading by title only of ordinance number 2344, an ordinance amending the driveway width standards in section 9470, title 9 of the Hermiston Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, sir. Council President requests that the ordinance be put on for final adoption at this meeting and that the second reading be by title only and calls for a roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously again. Mr. Tubby.
Second reading by title only.
Outstanding. All right. Motion that ordinance number 2344 be adopted and become effective 30 days after adoption by the City Council. Can I get a
Second.
Ms. Meyer? Okay, Ben motioned by Ms. Duran, seconded by Ms. Meyer. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Well, that's kind of cool. Makes things a little easier for you guys, right?
Yeah.
We like that. All right, resolution number 2253, employee handbook adoption. City Manager Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Council President, members of the council, we try to do this annually. We didn't make it a couple of years. That's really not, we can't apply that to all the employees that are affected by the employee handbook anymore based on current legal requirements. And so, because I still feel it's important that we encourage the city employees to live in the city, we're recommending that we go to the language that was put into the union contract, police union contract 3 years ago, which is to offer an incentive of $500 a year for anyone any employee who lives in the city. The financial implication of that is $19,500 a year, based on 39 employees outside of the union who live within the city limits, full-time. The The next one I want to highlight is, in the past, we've had some policies on callbacks and call-outs for our water, sewer, and roads staff, and those were kind of department-specific policies. We've kind of made those into one policy. We're also including that for our IT staff because of serving some of the other jurisdictions we serve, as well as some of the other emergency needs that we have. They are subject to call out at some point. So this new call out policy would apply to those four departments. The next is a clarification on our bilingual pay. When we originally put this in the handbook, we did not put language in that would anticipate someone already having a certification or something to show that they have passed, have shown their ability in another language. So this just gives us the ability to accept another equivalent test to what we administer, so an employee wouldn't have to retake a test to show their Spanish language proficiency. The next item is related, so it's adding education and premium pay and a slight increase in our certification pay for the non-union. That the gap between our top paid union officer and our sergeants has been getting smaller and smaller. And as we looked at what's causing the problem, it's not in the base pay. The base pay, there's plenty of gap. It's in the certification and premium pays that we offer under the union contract that we have not offered to the non-union police employees, so sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and so forth. So what we're proposing here would be to add those so that we can keep that incentive for an officer to become a sergeant or to move up, because there's not a financial incentive under our current structure, not very much of one. It's quite small. And this is related to our police department as well. So as part of our union negotiations this year, it actually came after the final contract was put together. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with the union to try out a paid time off system, which is a combination of vacation, holiday pay, and what we call our E-days or employee days. And so we are proposing to put that in place for those non-bargaining unit members of the police department. And you can see the schedule in there that lines out how many hours are available and so forth. And it is an increase over what was in place, or what would be a combination of what was formerly in place, and I'll address why that increase was added. We have in our library in particular, but we have another department that has an employee who is a permanent part-time employee. So they never get scheduled for more than 30 hours a week, but they've been working for the city for many, many years. And so we're adding a limited number of benefits to those employees. Initially, currently they don't have many benefits outside of the sick leave that we're obligated under state law to allocate to them. But what we're proposing in these 5, and it's spelled out which relatives that would apply to as far as a death in the family. Another item that we're adding for those is that if a part-time person was scheduled for a holiday, that they would be eligible for a holiday pay amount up to the same number of hours that they would work. So they're not getting 8 hours when they would only be scheduled for 6, but they would be eligible for 6 hours of holiday pay if they would have been scheduled to work on that holiday, but we're not open because of the holiday. So trying to keep them standpoint. The next item is that we're proposing to add Juneteenth as an official city holiday. I know I spoke to the council a few months ago as we were finishing up the union contract, and I may have sounded maybe a little evasive or whatever, but I needed to finish up some of those discussions and with the union contract and with that MOU that I described, we've done away with naming any holidays in the police contract. We just are giving them a certain number of hours off, and we did increase that knowing that we were going to propose to add Juneteenth as an official city holiday, but just, you know, we expect police officers to work holidays, and so naming which ones or what, we didn't feel like it necessarily needed to be in the contract, but here is kind of the city's official statement of declaring that, you know, Juneteenth is now an official city holiday. So that's that situation. The final part-time employee benefit that we are proposing to add is we currently have a leave donation program. So if someone is out for an extended period of time, other employees are allowed to donate leave under certain requirements. So for a part-time employee, they can, over their lifetime as an employee, a part-time employee can get up to 300 hours of donated leave. A full-time employee can get up to 600 hours. Benefit that we're adding for the non-bargaining certified law enforcement officers is it's kind of an insurance policy. It's offered by an organ. And basically this is, you know, if there's a shooting incident that an officer is involved in, the city's insurance steps in to insure the city and to make sure that we're protected. But that doesn't always coincide with protecting the officer. And based on our experience in 2012 with an officer involved shooting, you know, some of those officers did not feel like they had the ability to have the protection that they needed legally in that situation. So this is really a minimal cost for all of those officers outside the bargaining unit. It's $1,500 a year. And so we can offer that to them, and if they're involved in an incident, that will give them protection that they need. As they were, and the limitations are they need to be doing this within the scope of their duties and so forth. It doesn't just allow someone to be kind of off on their own, doing their own thing. There's parameters, but it does give them some opportunity to have their own protection. And then the final item I would highlight is just, we wanted to clarify the policy before, but we don't allow employees under 18 to drive a vehicle, and we don't allow employees under 21 to drive a vehicle that requires a CDL. So we're just putting that down on paper. That's been our practice, but we felt like we probably needed to have that down in writing. Those are the kind of the highlights. Be happy to answer any questions.
Can someone under 21 get a CDL license?
No.
Okay, so that just only stands to reason.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You were saying that you give a benefit or extra pay if you speak another language. You mentioned.
So that it would have a group that we would be speaking that language to that live within the city. So it could be any of those languages, but we would need a significant population of those Korean speakers or whatever.
Is there any language other than Spanish that would qualify for it?
Not right now, no. But I do know, you know, I worked around cities in Iowa where Russian would have qualified very clearly, and they had employees that learned Russian so that they could work with a large immigrant population from that country. So,
What about ASL?
that would have, I'm not sure that specifically is called out, but we would recognize that.
A silent group. You know, we don't know how many we have, so I think that would behoove us to recognize that. Any other comments, Mr. Jerome?
How often do you go through this update of your employee handbook?
We attempt to do it annually. This one was actually a couple of years in between, but we attempt it annually.
Yeah.
And how will you go about training to it, so to speak, and informing everyone who is going to be impacted by it so that you can make them aware? What's your
So we do, we require each employee to sign off that they've received it. We do highlight those kind of the larger changes with each department head and ask them to, in their staff meetings, also talk through those changes with their employees. That's our current training plan.
Sir.
I just wanted to say also thank you for the Juneteenth recognition as a holiday and your explanation as well. I know probably going through the contract negotiation is probably hard to say something that's fact or not and understand the sensitivity of what you were dealing with. But I do appreciate, I mean, not only the recognition of the holiday as a city holiday, but also the additional hours that would be given to employees for that additional holiday. And I think we definitely found out during the pandemic that police department never has a day off, and so they're always here to protect us and serve. And I also think the legal defense fund is appropriate.
Thank you. I have to. It's a worthwhile benefit, and I'm truly actually I'm surprised that they haven't had it available to them before now. So I'm glad to see us catching up with that and catching up with the all the things that are in this policy and handbook. So any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2253 and lay it on the record?
So moved.
Second.
Let's see, I'll give that one to Mr. McCarthy and second to Ms. Litton. And roll call.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 For adopting the revised City Design Standards and Specification Manual.
Yes,
Is
Mr.
this our big book?
Yes, this was a big portion of your 420-page packet. We'll ask Mr. Morgan to walk you through this.
Yes, Council President, members of the council, in keeping with the theme this evening, I'll try to be brief too, just like Mr. Stoddard. My staff report was probably a little thin relative to the overall document, but mainly that is because, I think I mentioned in the staff report, we did a pretty comprehensive update of those standards. It's been 10 years since we updated those types of things. So as a result of that, we're bringing it back now this year with really just minor changes. We do have Joshua Lott with Anderson Perry here this evening, and he can answer any specific questions if you have them. I will mention also that any of the substantive changes that came up really have been at the request of the development community. As they've come across various things, they ask the public works superintendents if they can modify the standard, that type of thing. So that's what most of these updates and changes are for.
Okay. Council comments? Seeing none, any public comment on Resolution 2254? None as well. Can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2254 and lay it on the record?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by, seconded by Mr. Harden. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Resolution passes. Next, December financial report. City Manager Smith.
I think Mr.
Quarters of the fiscal year, and I would say we're ending up in a pretty good place. We changed. Is it here? Okay, I have it on. There we go. Always start off with the Hermiston Urban Renewal Agency. I'm glad to report that I believe we will once again exceed our projections for property tax revenue in the remaining 6 months. I'm not going to say by how much, but when you collected 96% through December, stands to reason we'll probably have a little more through the end of the fiscal year. Going to the general fund resources, I mentioned in my report for November that the state had, or the county had revamped how they passed on property tax payments to us, and the last of the collected in December, but also we had a higher than projected revenue total for the month of December on top of that. So we have now at December end collected 6.6 million of our projected tax revenue, which is 97% of projected property tax for the year. I believe we stand probably to have a surplus in our projection. I think we will collect more than we projected, which would be in line with our budget for '24. General fund expenditures. Good news on this front is we are $69,000 below projected for the month. And for all intents and purposes on year to date, we are right on the mark because we are only 0.3% or $47,000 below our projected expenses. Our general fund department heads are doing a good job of monitoring their budgets for the rest of the year. And to allude to one of the recommendations Mr. Stoddard talked about, we're going to start instituting at least a quarterly review of our budget to actual on all of our expenses and revenues, a formal review. And as the year gets further along into April, May, and June, we will probably look at that monthly so that we don't have any surprises at the end of the year, just for control purposes. That was one of the recommendations they made. Just a clarity on where we are in the general fund by category of expenditures. You can see that the general fund departments show there's roughly through half of the fiscal year, we are just a little bit over in expenses, but for all intents. And then now what's nice about what happened in December, we had the delayed $1 million from the prior month, but we also had more property tax than we planned on. We actually ended up with a general fund balance higher than we had projected by $140,000. That reflects the increased property tax revenue that we had not projected. So it's looking very good for the end of the month in December and the second quarter. That will carry us through the remaining months through the fiscal year. What we call our utility and street funds report, all these departments are doing fairly well. The street fund is a little slow on their revenue because we have not gotten some of the allocations from the state in a timely fashion. I don't think that will be a problem going forward. Also, too, you can see that HES is catching up on some projects. So when we look at their projected expenditures for the year for 6 months, they're a little bit ahead of where they thought they would be on some of those projects. But their revenue excess more than offsets where they are over on expenditures. With that, I'd be glad to stand any questions on these financials because the next step is to have Mr. Morgan talk with you about updates on the CIP projects.
On the legal, city manager legal, 10,000, Steve 10,000.
There were some adjustments in the supplemental that were included in December's numbers that council approved in the supplemental to increase some expenses, but it still was a little bit over. We work its way through the end of the year and not be a problem.
I thought it could be staffing.
It could be staffing, it could be, we also had the increase in the paid time off policies the state instituted that affected every department. I did not do a great deep dive. Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Just a question on the general fund expenditures. Just going back again to the transportation airport, is that still ongoing fuel going to the airport, or?
It has been side, and so it's not a concern to me now because we're becoming a hub, because a lot of folks in the four-state area around us like to come to Hermiston and fill up. Okay, we get a premium for every gallon we sell.
Awesome. Is this going to be maybe adjusted appropriately, I guess, in terms of what we, I guess, anticipate the new expenditures would be?
It will probably be a new normal
Yeah.
as we go into the budget for 24. We can probably look at that very closely, with all the programs that they put on, the pickleball out of EOTech,
Okay.
soccer, all these things.
And is this mainly due to, I guess, new programs that we're just kind of putting up right now? And
Well, we're bringing back
Okay.
programs that we had to put to bed for COVID for some time. And I think Mr. Arts is being very creative in coming up with programs for folks that he thinks there's a market for.
The summer grant that we got, 200,000, that was supposed to be spent early. So this is projected throughout the year, so you'll see we had to do spending, donations, scholarships, those types of things. That's where a lot of that went. So that yearly budget was condensed down into a short time frame to get through those funds.
Okay. Thank you, both. Appreciate it.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, looks like covered.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Morgan.
All right.
I'm trying to highlight, I don't know what I'm not doing right. There we go. You have in your packet all of the capital projects, what we want to talk about. Limit discussion to any project that has some type of valid update for the current month. And so what we have is a few here. I think there's 6 or 4, I can't remember. But I am by no means give correct answers to any questions you might ask. So I asked Mr. Morgan to step in and walk through it, and I'll work his clicker for him.
Yeah, so the first one that you see up there is the North First Place water line replacement. That project is essentially lumped together with the North First Place roadway construction project, but you see it broken out separately mainly because our state earmark for the roadway project can only be used on the roadway piece. It can't be used for replacing the pipe. We're doing that at the same time just for efficiency standpoint, so we do have to keep those separate from an accounting standpoint. But so that project should be advertised next Monday. So we're excited about that. Hopefully we'll see an award of that contract end of February, second council meeting in February, hopefully. If all goes according to plan after contracts, fly around and a contractor gets mobilized, I expect they'll probably be in there beginning a lot of that work early April. And then avoid North First for a while. It's going to be torn up. So on the lift station number 6 project, that one is in the same vicinity as where we've been doing work for lift station number 3. The contractor for that project had to delay for about a month or so to stay out of the way of the lift station number 3 work. So that pushed that project beyond the paving window. So they finally were able to get that project finalized and finished up. And then they installed a temporary cold mix patch on that area, which means we didn't want to go in and have to do full paving and everything, knowing that this spring we're just going to go back in and rip it out. And so that actually ended up saving the project about $20,000 by going with the cold mix rather than paving it as normal. So right now it's probably the smoothest, nicest little stretch of that street before it. So. Okay, so moving on, regional water system, AWS phase number 1. This project has been added in with the last supplemental. You'll remember this is the project to extend the water main in Feetville to serve Amazon Web Services. That project's been awarded just under $3 million. We have a pre-construction meeting with Rachi scheduled for mid-February, and we're on track to have the project operational by mid-September. And again, so everyone remembers, that is a project that is paid for entirely by Amazon Web Services. We're doing the work and then they reimburse us. Also added in with the last supplemental, we hope to also advertise that here in the next 2 weeks with an award in early March, and then complete that paving project between Kelly before the end of the paving season this year.
And that completes the report, absent any questions on the capital projects.
Questions?
When is the end of the paving season?
I'm sorry?
When is the end of the paving season?
Oh, it always depends. Basically, they can't pave when it gets too cold, so it can vary. I mean, we paved the airport taxi lane on November 15th a few years ago, but then other times when we get a really cold early snap, then that asphalt towards the end of October.
All right. Next, any other questions?
Thank you.
Seeing none, can I get a motion to accept the December financial report as presented?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Duran, second by Mr. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Next is legislative request priority, City Manager Smith.
Yes, Mr. Council President, members of the council, you have a memo that looks like this at your place. I apologize if we didn't get this out in your packet. But I want to touch on a couple of things as we begin active work in the 2023 long legislative session. Our common practice is we kind of always have a list of projects in the back of our mind that we make suggestions to when we have opportunities to our state delegation. I just wanted to kind of bring that list in front of you and get any feedback, comments, especially as a group of us will be going down on Wednesday to talk and meet with our legislators. So just to be familiar with some of these that we would like them, if they have an opportunity to move some funding our way to help us on these projects. And then I want to finish up with talking about a few of the impact issues, high impact issues that I think will be discussed in this session, and just talk a little bit about that. So if you go, the first we have here is Hispanic Resource Center, and this is a partnership we've been working on with Umatilla County. They've already dedicated a little bit of funding that will help us as we look at doing some further renovations at the library. But we know the state has also dedicated some funding, some of the same group, and how can we encourage them to invest in Hermiston, so that's what we'll be doing that. The next one, a public safety center renovation. This is a partnership with Umatilla County Fire District Number 1. As we, are both departments are growing, and then also we're planning to renovate the former court space in that building so that the police department can function a little bit more efficiently. Again, we'll be working with our delegation to see if that project is something that they can find money to contribute. Representative Smith often uses the term the color of money, and so you'll notice there's a wide variety of projects in kind of different areas. So whatever color of money he can find, let's bring it and help a project in Hermiston. Then we have the Health, Wellness, and Aquatic Center project. That one's maybe a little further out than some of these others, but again, we've seen some of those types of projects receive large amounts of funding from the legislature. So if they have something available, we're ready to help that project move forward. Then the Carnegie Library renovation. This one is kind of more in a planning stage. What are we going to do with this building long term? I know there's a community group interested in potentially a museum. Other ideas have been kind of put forward, and so we'll need to do some planning and working with that building to make it useful, for another 100 years. It's already been a great asset to our community. So the great project, we've been talking with you about that for quite a while. Again, this is, some of these projects will also be topics of be able to put the information in a nice, concise way in front of those who might have the opportunity to help us out. Then the final project is, we're calling it particularly, the fair and then other events as well. So
No cost estimate on public safety renovation. You don't know what that is?
it's a little bit undefined because we haven't had a chance to really get in and design exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at potentially $3 to $5 million because part of what the fire district wants to do is be able to make it seismic, that there's some seismic retrofit dollars out there, so they're working to bring some of that in, and that will increase the cost over just a renovation to make the space more useful. So we haven't finalized that number yet.
Yes, ma'am.
So I appreciate you bringing all of this. I was wondering if any thought was given to, public transportation. Because some of these projects are really great, but they're kind of like, places to get to, and we need ways to get people places. So has any thought been put towards projects regarding public transit in any?
Yeah, so we usually do, so these are really focused on capital.
Yeah.
And so the transit work that we've been doing is really in partnership with Kayak Transportation, and they have been our experts on how to access that funding. And so we have had meetings, and in fact, I think we're planning to meet later this week with them to see what funds can we work together to get to increase our ability to do public transit. And so, yeah, we haven't left that one behind. These are just kind of more building projects and not necessarily the transit side. But we are looking at seeking that type of funding as well.
I appreciate the condensed format that you have these in. I think this is, these are projects that we've been talking in council for a while now, and like we talked about, just sometimes securing funding for some of these capital projects are difficult. We have enterprise zone funding, but we saw how long, it just takes to get things built like this city hall. I myself, I'm a fan of the top three. I'm a fan of all of them, but definitely the top three. I think the great project, like you said, we can get hopefully some federal funds. I know that's what they've been working on with the infrastructure packages. And I just know, talking in our 2040 committee, and just a lot of community members, that this aquatic center it's been a big deal. And just early from being in council, I remember some of our early estimates were between $26 to $28 million, and things just get more expensive as time passes. And so if we can secure some sort of home run funding, I think an argument could be made that we need more attention here out in the east. I know that we've had some media attention, and especially the governor's year for that, and especially coming out of COVID, I think having some activities for kids, and especially regional activities, because this is going to be more of a regional hub, would be a great sell at the legislature. I, for one, think that all these projects are great, but it just takes a lot of time for things like that are this price tag to happen. I look forward to the partnership with the county still on the Hispanic Resource Center. I think that's something that we can do amongst us, but if there's anything that the legislature is willing to offer, we're always, I think we'd always want to take it. And as far as the public resource or public safety center, yeah, like Councilor Harden was saying, I don't think we've seen any any plans from Anderson Perry or anything like that. I don't think we've gotten to that point because we just moved the court over here.
That's
so
right.
I understand that there's a lot of things still in the works, but if I guess getting more of a timeline on that, I think would be great. If we're trying to present it, I think all these other ones have a timeline or have projections made or have a lot of ideas behind it. So I just wish you luck on this. And like I said, the top first three, that's what I would fight for especially.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Ron?
Yes, thank you for sharing this information. I wanted to ask, would it be useful for us, for you, to maybe seek information from like the hospital to find out if there are any statistics that can go along with your mention of, you know, the aquatic center, to perhaps find out if there are any obesity rates that we can include. And as Councilor Barron said, for mental health, maybe if we could find statistics that said maybe how many youth, you know, suffer from depression or things like that, where our communities can benefit, and we can just more than say this is a want, but more of a need because of what the statistics are saying. I don't know if we could get that kind of information from Community Counseling Solutions or Umatilla County, but that's just a thought.
Yeah, there is some data out there. We can go look, see what we can find.
I think it would be useful to be able to share that because, you know, statistics tend to bring the message home a little bit better. And I also think that the Public Safety Center is quite the need because, especially with our Umatilla County Fire District serving our surrounding communities, because of the money that was poured into a lot of the jurisdictions to be able to communicate an emergency. And it's sad that, you know, those funds kind of went away because it allowed them to have a lot of technology, a lot of training, and a lot of the needs that they had at the time. So anything that we can do to help our public service officials would be so beneficial. So I hope that our legislators are willing to be open to all of these projects for Eastern Oregon.
Ms. Smith?
Okay, I feel that for the Hispanic Resource Center, that it should be multicultural resource center. That way, when more people move here, we don't know, but the people that are here should be represented. Because I feel like it's leaving other cultures out, and those people that we have here, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, African American, we should all be included.
Do they have any extra money they could throw at Deer and Harper? Just so we could move them along.
Mr. McCarthy?
Big fan of pretty much everything that everybody else is as far as their favorite projects, but my question is regarding the riding pavilion. So for the proposed location there, do we have any information on whether or not that would upset the balance of events that happen during the county fair, and have they provided any feedback of having to juggle things for
Yeah, so that building and that location went through the master planning process where the county fair had representation as well, and so they're supportive of that location and activities that are currently happening outdoors, and so they're very open to the opportunity to have that space.
Covered spaces during heated events type thing?
Right, right. And, you know, also, you know, what we would be proposing in that building, it would be potential spaces, meeting room spaces for 4-H and some of the other programs that they support as a fair, so.
Okay. So, is there any public comment on that there, public member? Apparently there is.
Karen Primer, 1085 West Madrona, Hermiston. I just had a question about where you're planning on putting the pavilion. Can you explain that for me?
So if you're familiar where the cop shop is,
Yeah.
that would be the edge, kind of that big property that goes between, the big space between riding arenas for the rodeo, out to where the current roadway is, up to close to the bathrooms. And the idea would be that we would provide a permanent cop shop space in that building.
And what's the timeline on that?
We don't have one.
Don't have one? Okay.
Right. It's a long way out there, unless we were to get 15 million dropped on us right now.
Okay. The reason that I'm inquiring is we're obviously in the budget process with the county, but we are also looking at doing some different things with possibility of having a couple dispatch positions down here. So just to alleviate the issues we've been having with the road closures and not getting personnel there. So that's what I was asking. And no more noisy rides outside the cop shop. I like that. Thanks.
All right, thank you, public member. Okay, so there's no recommended action. This is just for our info.
Right. And then I just want to take just 1 second to highlight kind of the major issues that I see that would affect us, I think, that we're already hearing about from the legislature. One is housing and homelessness. I think the governor is making that a priority, as well as the Democratic caucus in both the House and the Senate have stated that that's a priority for them. And then water issues. We know also that some other groups from Eastern Oregon are asking for funding for different projects, including some aquifer storage and recharge, which would be beneficial. A project that we would like to also participate in the future. So we're watching that and participating. And then the other area that's big for us is the enterprise zone program renewal will be a big topic this session. And there are already many bills that are looking to attack it in different ways. So I think we will be spending quite a bit of time explaining the benefits that our community has gotten from the enterprise zone.
City committee and liaison reports. Ms. Meyer.
I attended the Parks and Recreation meeting on January 12th, where we covered basically the up-and-coming agenda that Brandon has for what is going to go into these parks. The Heroes Sports Complex, the water infrastructure, light poles, field leveling and planting, and lacrosse has tentatively scheduled their first lacrosse game tournament on June 10th and 11th. And we can only hope to accommodate that. Brandon said we would. Okay, Riverfront Park, the construction of the play structure is about 70% completed. Remaining poles have been received and are in the ground. Construction will continue as weather permits. Existing concrete curbing in front of slide will be removed and replaced, allowing for a 6-inch buffer zone for safety issues. Harrison Park, bid was received for the Harrison Park basketball court project. Bids included asphalt and concrete, and Made to Thrive will apply for grants for additional funding on this project. Large amount of the ground prep work can be provided by Parks and Rec. Additional bid for lighting will have to come along, and security camera and internet bids have not been received at this time. Community Center, the new donor wall, is on the horizon. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, unless Brandon has been working on it since we had the meeting. It's moving it from one location to another location. The special events that we had during the holiday season were outstanding, and the Christmas bazaar, the Christmas tree lighting, and the holiday parade are a few of the ones that were really, really well attended this year. The lighting parade had about 2,500 attendees, which is something that you only get for fair. And unless the Legacy Park, I will let Brandon go over how that's going to play out.
Thank you. So we have our next Parks and Recreation Committee meeting is on February 9th, and we are doing an open house to invite the neighborhood up on 6th Street and the new Legacy development to come down and share their ideas for what that 1 acre park, and we can just talk about it. One of the options is to change the name. Unofficially, the name of the park is Legacy Park, but we have the opportunity to name it something different. So we'll take suggestions. We won't make a decision there. After we go through this process, I'll probably make a presentation here on what we learned and kind of go from there. But everything that will be brought up, it's all based on our budget. Initial talks with some of the residents in the area said they wanted an indoor water park right in their 1 acre park there. So, we'll have to see what comes from it.
Also, the aquatic center, the number of visits this past year was 72,000. That's everybody through the door now. That's parents bringing their kids for whatever, but that's a pretty impressive amount of people. Good job.
Thank you.
Have you considered, and maybe you have already and I just haven't seen it, putting that infographic
On social media so that people can see.
We posted it right after the new year.
Okay. That's pretty impressive. Great job.
Okay. Any other meeting which Councilor Duran and I were both present at? We had two presentations, one from CAPCO, and we also had one from DEQ. CAPCO presentation was pretty interesting, offering kind of financial education services, more like services like if you're attempting to buy a home. And so I thought it was a great presentation. They are offering their services in both Spanish and English. So I think that's it's a great service that's in the community that I don't know if many of us know about, but definitely, especially in these times, it's very good to be educated about what's out there. And the second presentation we had, which was kind of took a majority of our time, was on DEQ's presentation on nitrates. So this was kind of, I think, more of a community presentation to the Hispanic Advisory Committee. So not a lot of new information, but more of the norm, or more of what we understand is going on now with nitrates. For me, it was more re-education all over again, knowing that some of these wells have been with high percentages of nitrates for decades is something that was pretty new to me, maybe because I'm new to the area, but it's just, it's wild, just to know that there's that level of contamination in the wells, and kind of had to re-educate myself all over again, knowing that here in the city we use city services, so city water. It doesn't necessarily impact us, but if you're out in the county and you're using a well, then potentially it might be contaminated depending on the well that it might be. And so we had a huge conversation about that. And also they presented some information. I think there's still one position available for this really long committee name. I don't even know why they gave it this acronym. Lubwana, exactly. That's the one. We currently have County Commissioner Dan Doran serving as vice chair, but there is still another position available for representation if there's anybody on the council that's wishing to serve. It seems that they are going to be doing quite a bit of work, and I imagine that the governor's team is going to try to address it. They seem pretty adamant about trying to get resources for that. So as far as the Hispanic Advisory Committee meeting went, that's kind of how that one went. And as far as geotech, I know we just talked a little bit about this earlier, but we do have the master plan. So for right now, there is kind of things put in place, agreed upon by all parties of the geotech committee, which is the fair, the rodeo, and the hoteliers of the city. So the strategic plan's out. I know Councilor Prim and I are on the committee for this day.
Thanks. Let me see if anybody else has it. Okay.
Councilor Barone did an excellent job at summarizing the Hispanic Advisory Committee, but what I do want to say is that I voiced my concern about the committee members that were part of the WAMA. I hope that's how it's said. Because we do have a high percentage of the Hispanic population, not only in this area, but also in Morrow County. And out of all the members there, there's not one single Hispanic member. So I suggested, since one of their big endeavors is to try to educate folks about their wells and you know, the potential threat of the nitrates in their water, they definitely need to, in my opinion, need to have a member that can also be an advocate for the Hispanic community. Although they are partnering up with Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Rural Action Agency to get information out and to help people test the waters over in Warren County. But that's one of the frustrations too, that for the most part for DEQ, if anyone wants to have information about it, people have to go to their website, which, you know, for those that do have access to technology, great, but for most people, they don't. So I suggested, you know, if they could also have a report where they can also share this annual report so that people are aware, rather than leaving it up to the person to go and get the information, because you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know that people that have wells need to be testing at least, you know, their waters 4 times a year. And so I think that's part of the learning process for many. And yeah, they also have testimonials. And I think Salia Sanchez, which she works for the Oregon Rural Action, has
In the city?
Yeah. 6, 5, no of our.
I mean,
private.
not private. Not.
I mean, I'm sure there are some, but yeah, we don't. I don't know. We track those. So, but we know. I mean, we know what we're doing with our system.
Right. Yeah,
that we're safe and that type of thing. So.
Yeah, I figured that part, but I didn't. But I was kind of curious as to whether there's any kind of tracking as to how many private wells that we would have within the city that would, you know, this would affect. So.
Umatilla County is part of that too. And Hermiston in some areas have reports of nitrates as well. So Umatilla County has not been actively, or to my knowledge, have not been actively providing this information as much as Morrow County has up until today.
Okay. Any other committee reports? Council President's report, mine. My turn. Gonna be quick. From the upcoming goal setting meeting. Thank you. And this was fast. Mine went great. I think we had a very, very useful conversation. It was, I felt good about it when I was done. I'm assuming that pretty much everybody else has had their conversation with her as well, so that's good. Tomorrow, or Wednesday, we have a city day at the Capitol. How many we have going up to that? Just 4 of us, 5 of us. Okay, good.
Well, the mayor would be there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's apparently where he's at now. So, other than that, that's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. But I have going on. So, council comments. Mr. President.
I got to go down with Byron and Jackie Linton a couple days ago to this guidelines for ethics and things like that. So Very excited to be, and also some networking opportunities with other people there, so I was very excited for that. And I'm excited also, as a counselor, experience more what legal offers, since I didn't really get too much of a chance to experience that in the middle of COVID. And I already feel much busier in this 1 month that I've been a counselor than the entire 6 months that I was last time. So I'm excited for the City Day coming up this week as well.
Excellent. Mr. Brum.
Got to attend MLK presentation speakers. It's a really great event, especially to have here. It was really, really cool. Listening to the jazz band was great, the speakers, a lot of different speakers. We had our very own Jesus Rome also speak. He was the keynote speaker. So it was a great event to be at, and I think it's in its rightful home now. This is a good place and a good home for it for the future. I was planning on also attending City Day at the Capitol, but alas, I only have 1 day, and I have to choose between City Day and goal setting session. And well, I'm going to pick one over the other. So I know you guys are going to do a great job at City Day. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. So Hermiston is going to be ready.
Any others? And it looks like our youth advisors have finals this week, so they expressed their regrets of being able to attend tonight. We had a brief meeting with them prior to tonight's session. I'm pretty excited to see them coming to participate in this, so that's a good thing, keeping our youth involved. Manager's report.
Really, you've all highlighted different things that I was going to talk about. I just congratulate the Hermiston Cultural Awareness Committee. I think that was a great MLK event. I don't know that anybody's ever counted before, but it looked like a bigger crowd than we've ever had. So I think that was great. And then just to point out, you have a LOC here at your spot. It's a great wall calendar, throw darts at it, whatever. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, mine gets appropriated and will probably be so here in the next half hour. So
By a member of the public.
By a member of the public who shall remain nameless. She's already named herself once, so. Okay, well, at this time, we are going to recess for executive session. And I'll read this right off the paper here. The City Council of the City of Hermiston will now meet in executive session in the executive session room for the purpose of discussing matters pertaining to negotiating real property transactions. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660(2)(e), which allow the council to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the council to negotiate real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are excluded. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to in the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No final decisions may be made in an executive session. At the end of the executive session, the council will return to open session, which the audience may attend. The executive session will last approximately 10 minutes. With that, we are in recess.
Oh, the judge.
You were short.
Okay, so I'll let everybody get set down and that's ready to go, right?
That is not my problem.
All right, we're back from recess, and does anybody have anything else to add? Subtract, multiply, divide? No? We're adjourned.